There we go, Andy. We're off and running here on a Monday. You hit the record button a little prematurely, caught me a little off guard. Premature. Never mind.
Recordation every now and
Yeah.
again. Every now and again, I suffer from a little PR there, so I'm sorry about that.
How was your weekend, Andy?
What's that?
How was your weekend?
It was a good day. It was a very full weekend. Honestly, 2 days is not enough time in modern America. We're so freaking busy in this country all the time. We work so much during the day. 2 day weekends, like yesterday. I got up. I was working for a few hours. I was assembling furniture for a few hours. I was mowing the lawn for a few hours. It was 6 o'clock. I was like, what just happened here? So
Yeah.
kind of wild. But then I did some fuss yesterday. I was telling you before the show, I was out, and after 10 years, I finally finished a tattoo project. So I was happy to get that wrapped up finally.
Yeah, I mean it's good to get that sleeve completely done.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah, now when I flex on you, I can look sexier. I can try and be like, hey.
good. I can't tell. Is it a article of clothing or is it your arm? What's going
What's
on?
happening? What is happening?
Andy, I know you're a faith-based individual. You go to do you are you virtual or you go in person?
So we stopped attending in person during COVID and have not gone back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all right.
Yeah,
So
we
you
remain
like
remain virtual, which I like for my work. It actually helps because I like to monitor what's happening during typical church hours in relating to
yeah,
work. Yeah.
yeah. So like I mean and I like tithing is a big piece of
Yeah.
being in, for your faith-based
Yeah.
beliefs.
Yeah.
A lot of those, supporting to the ministries that go on there. I go in person, I tried the virtual, but mostly I like to be in person. But did you see this individual, Andy, this pastor who like took giving to a whole kind of new level, I guess?
Well,
Like
you could say that. You could say that.
I mean, there was this individual, and I'm trying to like catch up all of this. Is a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
but they were this viral video is like this individual, and again, my belief is you give your times, talents, and treasures. So, like, you can't always give financially, so you give your talents sometimes.
Yeah.
You may help with projects, or you may help volunteering, or things like that. And so, or your treasures, you may give, like, you may not be able to give money, but you may give some of your belongings to the church, or you may give your will. Some people actually will money to your
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
So it's possible. This individual, somebody came up and had made a very generous donation of like $1,200. And the pastor openly rebuked them and said,
Yeah.
but that's not $2,000.
Yeah.
You need to give 2,000. You need to find $2,000. And like really, and this person was like, "Well, this is what I have today. I'll try to get up." And I've never seen such a thing, Andy, where
Well, and it
somebody,
followed a really confusing message, Dave. The pastor basically, they're trying to build a new facility as part of their church complex. And the pastor said basically, give 1,000 and one, 1,000 plus 1. And so congregants were kind of confused, like, is that $1,000 plus a dollar? Are you asking, like, what are you asking for? Because is this confusing language. And so a lot of people were generally confused. What the pastor had implied was, I want you to give 1,000 and then give 1,000 again. Listen, for most people, $2,000
it's a
at the
lot.
on the spot request, that's
Yeah.
a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And I'll be honest, this is part of why I haven't gone back to a single church. I love the book Mere Christianity, and it concludes sort of really encouraging the reader to go beyond a rudimentary understanding of faith and go into a church and like really settle in. And I've always struggled because of things exactly like this. It's really frustrating because I feel like the idea of tithing, as you sort of alluded to in the beginning, it's giving in a lot of different ways, but it doesn't necessarily have to be to a single place of worship. It can be nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But a lot of faith-based organizations really love to expand and sort of build their brand and do a lot of things. And a lot of times it's the best of intentions that go along with, and they're doing a lot of good in communities. But there's also a lot of other things that go on there, and there's a lot of ways to give. I love to give. I love to give to different causes. And right now, for example, in my community, hunger is a big cause I'm focusing on, and so there's lots of different ways to give and tithe. But when a pastor wants to stand up there and really not only make a very big demand on his congregation, but then chastise them and mock them for not giving enough publicly, that's a bold, bold step that doesn't really align biblically with me. So this is a pretty wild story, pretty ballsy pastor, and apparently got a lot of flack online from his congregation, sort of saying like, just clearly say what you want next time and be reasonable, man.
Yeah, and I just never have been a believer of like any donate like again when you talked about expanding your brand and all this other stuff, when churches start feeling like that's their thing,
Yeah,
then really I'm not really sure. That's why I struggle with the church sometimes. I remember I took a class in college just really talking about like your personal relationship with your God, whoever it is that you choose to believe in, more so than belonging to any certain special like group or things. And look, I like our church we go to today. I think they do a lot of valuable missions. We're very involved there, but it's a challenge when you start you know ceding your money over to somebody and you're not like they can use that how they want and I think I think that's sometimes you have to be very clear. I like what you were saying there is like giving it across the board.
yeah.
You don't give it to anyone, you give it to multiple based on what you feel is best. So anyways, so good times, Andy. So
Yeah, always amazing to see. So yeah, good ballsy pastor move to start the week. Although, like I said, that story's a couple weeks old, but it happens all the time. Things like that happen
It,
all
it
the time.
it it does. I probably more so than not, and
Yeah,
maybe that's one of the reasons why some individuals are rejecting, institutional religion,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
across the board. I mean, there's a lot of struggles with religion
Yeah, but
today.
that's a whole episode we can get into, Dave. Good.
I know that's so let's do this, Amy. I got three topics I want
All
to
right.
go through. I want to carry over one from last week about Trump, the signs that maybe Trump is intending to stay longer
Yeah,
than his constitutional allowed limitations are, Andy. And he's in Asia this week. No doubt there'll be some sort of China deal that's been made, even though there's be a rough agreement. There tentative already agreement that they've already announced over the weekend. And so that'll be invariably good for the stock market, and everybody will believe everything's okay and wonderful. Meanwhile, there's a lot of things still struggling. The farming issue is really like being the impacts of what's happening with farmers and the tariffs on farmers is really being realized now as the soybean crops have not been exported at all because China went elsewhere. That's weird how that works, right, Andy? How tariffs work.
amazing.
But
Yeah, bizarre.
anyways, I want to get into this article about some of the reasons why Trump may be wanting to stay longer. One, he keeps telling people that he's going to run in 2028. I mean, he doesn't hide this fact. In fact, during one of the early meetings with Schumer and other congressional leaders about the showdown, the one of the things he had on his desk was Trump 2028 hats. So, like again, it could, if you're JD Vance, you're like, oh, he's just having fun with them. He's just taunting them, which is what a real leader does, right? He taunts his
Yeah.
opposition, right? So he keeps telling people there, right? I mean, that's probably a pretty good indicator, Andy. So
Yeah, and this president's done a lot, like we said many times on this, show that he tells us what he wants to do, and they've been very vocalized. I mean, we've had folks in Congress, now, and he's been doing it, but now a little bit louder, maybe Steve Bannon, really saying like we have to have Trump again because he's got to finish the job. There's ways to
divine,
do it.
he's been divine, Andy.
Yeah, it's the will of God that he was kept alive from these assassinations, and now that he leads this country down the path of despotism. But there's a lot of chattering, and again, like while the Constitution is pretty explicit, like there's ways to be mischievous. Now, I don't know. There's a lot of things that have to happen because to do it ahead of an election, there'd be challenges immediately, and so that could affect the election, itself, and that could be complicated. To try and do something mischievous after an election, sort of be nominated by to be vice president, president resigning, or something along those lines, looks really uh, questionable. Is it illegal? I'm not sure. So then, like, are there ways? Yeah, there probably are ways to be mischievous and get there. will it be challenged? Certainly. Will it lead this country to chaos? Absolutely. It's just kind of amazing to see because you got to think how old Trump will be, when he's
I know.
running for a third term. Like, is that really what America might want? So it's concerning from
Andy,
many levels.
he's super fit, and
Perfect.
he's like his cognitive tests are off the charts.
I mean, there's never been a healthier president, and
There's
he's like 20 years
never been
younger
a
than his
health.
physical age. Don't
Yeah.
look at his ankles, don't look at his hands. Now again, I've said this many times. I've said this is the most active president of our lifetimes. I don't like that at all. I don't want an active president. I want a very quiet, in the shadows president, to be honest. We don't have to hear and see from a lot. But he has a lot of energy. I'll give him that. But nonetheless, like this country is not meant to have, presidents that have multiple terms. We recognized that a while back after, FDR's ridiculous 4 terms in office. But that's where this is going right now. And so we have to see. I mean, the president's he's telling us. He said it very clearly. I'm interested in doing it. I want to
Well,
do it. I like to work.
well, let's think about ways that he could do it. So here's another thing. He's floated the idea of using a war to cancel the election so he could stay in power, Andy.
Yeah.
What's happening right now with Venezuela
Yep.
and what's the drug cartels? It's very concerning in that he's starting to ratchet up the security, and these are dangerous threats, and this is not war. I'm just going to kill these people. So it's potentially he could manufacture a national emergency here, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is happening. We are positioning military troops off the coast of Venezuela. We are conducting lethal attacks. The president said, I don't think we're going to declare war. I don't think I need to do that. I'm just going to keep killing people. So he feels that he can do whatever he wants. Again, Congress just being like, yeah, okay, we don't really want to do our jobs and be responsible for anything. So you want, Mr. President? It's a very concerning time. It's a very like the stage is being set, emergency powers, the deployment of troops, and there's a lot of things happening that suggest the president go down this path and try and enforce it.
All right, so here's another one, Andy. We're seeing it now. He continues to undermine faith in the U.S. elections. We saw it over the weekend, and he continues to talk about how the 2020 election was rigged and all of these other things. He's starting to put DHS operatives and individuals at election polling centers in Democratic areas for this election coming up here. In which he stands. I mean, all indications are New Jersey is going to go Democratic and Virginia is going to go Democratic, mostly because the other candidates are just so fucking awful. But nonetheless, I mean, I saw the Virginia. I don't know if she's the gubernatorial candidate, but she was like on the stand and the people were booing her, and she just
Yeah.
starts ranting out USA, USA. I'm like, what the like they have a playbook. Like, okay, when the crowd starts going, then start doing this, and like,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Virginia here in my home state. We will definitely be electing the Democratic candidate for governor. Abigail Spanberger will be the next governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The question is really, will the Democrats sweep all 3 statewide offices or not? And that's increasingly questionable because of the Attorney General. But yeah, for sure, it's a
Yeah.
mess here in Virginia.
And then the last one, Andy, I think is one like he's already shown that he's trying to cling to power. Like, I mean, January 6th, again, you can pardon all these people and you can try to rewrite history about how these people were patriots, but that was an insurrection. That was an attack on the US Capitol and our institutions. Now just imagine it being another time around. The only thing I think could go differently is I think his support base over 4 years, I think is going to radically be undermined and slowly whittle away. I mean, we're already seeing some of that, but I don't know, Andy. He's already shown these
Yeah,
things. One, he's told himself, like he continues to say it, and again, just like Putin, when you say these, like we should believe them after a while. Like Trump continues to say these things, so maybe we should believe it.
yeah, for sure we should. I mean, Dave, that's part of why the 2026 elections are so important because if the Democrats can take control back of both or one house of Congress, at least there can be some level of opposition to the president's actions and some level of accountability, some level of oversight, some level of pushing back, of resisting this president's antics. Without that, if the Republicans manage to maintain both houses of Congress, they might just very well steamroll through the next 4 years of elections with a majority and with nobody questioning and pushing back on what's being done. So I mean the 2026 elections and the Trump administration always recognized that those were critical elections. They had to get a lot done in these first 2 years to try and secure those midterm elections. And with the gerrymandering activities you're seeing around the country, there's a good chance. I mean, there's a good chance Republicans could maintain control of both houses. Now, the American public is repudiating, the Republican Party right now, and the president in particular. But how that translates into elections and poll results, we'll see. But here in a week, like you said, in Virginia, in New Jersey, I believe that the residents of those states are going to stand up and say, whoa, we are not putting Republicans in more elected positions right now. I think that's what we're going
Yeah.
to see, but we'll see. We'll find out. We'll find out.
All right. All right. So we'll wrap up. That's our political segment for today. Mama Jabor, you may want to off the pod now because we're going to talk some football coming up. Hey, Andy, this weekend, and I've been toying about this for a couple weeks
Yeah,
now, ever since Penn State fired their head coach, James Franklin, after they started off 3-0. It was a very kind of like they played three really subpar teams. They had a really disappointing double overtime loss, and then they lost two big games. Games they should have won against lesser opponents. One was 0-4 and never led at any point during any of those four games, and they wound up beating Penn State. But Penn State fired their coach. I thought it was the right thing to do because the season was lost. The it was the team had just given up. I mean, frankly, it had given up, and I think it was time to reset those things. Since that time, Andy, Florida fired their head coach, Billy Napier, who was not a really good coach. But in Florida, I think has delusions of wanting to be an elite team in college football. They had a really good run in the 90s,
they
Andy,
did.
but and they had a pretty good run maybe 10 years ago, but really they're not like all that great, but they think they are. That's the thing about Florida. The Florida man thinks they're great. So, anyways, so Florida fired their head coach, and then this weekend, Andy, LSU fired their head coach, Brian Kelly, who had national title aspirations heading into this season. And clearly we're getting they haven't scored 24 points or more against a power four team. Those are the big four conferences this year, and they just fired their coach. I've never seen now there's been other coach firings, but Penn State, Florida, LSU,
Yeah,
some of the blue bloods of college football
yeah.
history. I mean, between them, there's like 8 national titles there. Really strong programs. Um, and I honestly think this is where the name, image, and likeness money and these collectives that have built up at all of these schools now pay for your kids to, come back again. Penn State last year was a semifinalist in the college football playoff. They brought back all their talent except for, and they brought in a new defensive coach and Andy, they just fundamentally failed
Yeah.
to be ready for the season. Florida has a huge following like this. LSU paid a lot of money in the $20 million range for their team, and people are just really upset. I think that we have really changed expectations in the college landscape, and I'll be honest, Andy, I'm not sure I like it much anymore. You
Yeah.
know, I think this is a like this. They're at a like we have got to get some control around this money. It's going into college athletics right now. It's a concerning trend for me.
And you see it. I mean, I was watching this a little bit. I don't follow college as closely as you do, but I do have an idea of what's going on with my local area teams. And Virginia Tech, recently well, not recently, this season canned their head
Yep.
coach after a slow start, and it's been a slow start since it came on. I think there's an increasing, win now expectation, and I think you're right about the NIL. Like, there's like, hey, you can get players on your teams, but it's really hard. I mean, there's a lot of college teams. I mean, there's a lot of so there's a lot of options for players, and if a guy wants to start as opposed to be on a national championship type team, he wants a chance to get to the NFL and be seen, and like it is a very complex landscape. I think that's why some guys are like I don't want to do this anymore. It used to be that the NFL I think was really complicated for coaches, and they would come out of college and go to the NFL and be like, I don't like it here. Like I want college. It's more manageable. Like you can really get to connect with your players. You get to really coach. I almost feel like it's gone the other way now, where
Yeah.
college is pretty, unstable. There's this weird expectation. Like I refuse to give, more because we're already giving the colleges so much for NIL. Like we get those requests all the time, I just don't like it. I've never been a huge college football fan, but now it's just really messy to me, and I don't like the way it's being managed and played. And I feel like it's increasingly hard. It's always been hard, but it's increasingly hard for a team that isn't a top caliber team to come up. Now I'll say, again, the story unfolding in the state of Indiana with their football team is one I can truly be excited about because I love seeing that team, rising to prominence. But for the most part, like there's winners and losers in college football, and it's just really hard to penetrate that barrier.
Yeah, it's you bring up like Indiana, like there's a guy who came in as coach. He brought in a lot of transfers, but these were not like top tier transfers. These were good players who were coachable. Like I think that's what's missing here. And again, these kids who they come in as like a 5-star recruit or a 4-star recruit, they don't get the starting job and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to transfer." I think we were really creating really bad conditions. And again, Penn State, they brought back two of their running backs. One of them, like, and he was going to be a first round draft pick by all accounts. He came back to college and he has fucking sucked all year.
Yeah.
Like, and is it like he got complacent with the money? Because look, some people are staying in college an extra year because they're going to make more in college than they would their rookie year in the NFL because they have a structure like we're at a point now where college athletics has got to put in professional frameworks. They already started talking about limiting the transfer portal. The transfer portal is the free agent market in the pro market. So you got to put in something there. You're going to have to put in a salary cap because this is like again, while there's a lot of NIL money out there and there's a lot of strong boosters and yes, people were giving money under the table before it's not like it is now. I mean,
Yeah.
it is out of control where, you go to Texas and they line up Lamborghinis for you and the beautiful girls and all this other stuff. And it's open. And I just feel like this is a really bad look. And you're right. Like college is more challenging now to manage than the pros. You need a GM, you need a head coach, you need a player development coach, like, and you need to navigate this like the head coach can't do it all anymore in college. And they used to have that rule that with an iron fist, they were the head coach, general manager, and everything. In college, it's a lot more difficult now. And I think this is a concerning trend. And until there starts putting in some rules, it's going to get worse, I think, Andy.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think until it's under control, it is going to get worse, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's an unfortunate thing. I think a lot of teams, a lot of fans are struggling to adjust to the new environment, and I don't really know that it's good for the sport, and in a lot of ways, I know it's good for the NFL. I think we're seeing come out in the terms that we're getting less quality draft picks as well,
Yeah.
but it's just complicating the landscape quite a bit.
Yeah, I think there's a trickle down effect. We just lose out. Like I think we're no longer developing players. It's too easy to just say, "Oh, he's already a really good player. I'm just going to put him into my system, and I don't have to develop him. I don't have to like make them better." And I think that's really we're missing that a lot. And so,
Coaching, Dave, we're missing coaching.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. So, okay, Andy, speaking of the NFL, let's go to the NFL. Week 8 is in the books.
Yeah.
What'd you think? Well, actually, we got one more game tonight. The Chiefs should assert themselves in this game tonight. Initial reactions from the weekend, Andy.
Dave, I'll tell you, there's a lot to love. It's good to see the Eagles playing good football again. The Colts continuing to be a dominant football team on the field, scoring a lot of points and winning games. The Texans, I think, played a great game yesterday. The Jets, Aaron Glenn, one of the coaches I
I
really
know
am excited about, finally get their first win. There was a lot to love this weekend.
a lot not to love is the Cowboys got trounced, but
Yeah, I didn't want to
uh,
bring that up. I figured you would. Sorry about that.
yeah.
Not really.
The Broncos looked like a good offense, but they played finally a really shitty defense. And I think that's the Cowboys up and down season. And I heard a press conference with Jerry Jones afterwards, and he was like, "I'm not happy." Like, what did you think was going to happen? Jerry, you traded your best defensive player at the beginning of the season for two picks that are going to wind up being end of the first round at best. Because Green Bay had a dominating win last night.
Yeah.
There's are they 6-1-1, I think, or 5-1-1?
They've only lost one game. They've only lost one game.
Yeah, and that was to a really bad Browns team, right? I mean, there was that weird Browns game, and then they tied the Cowboys.
Yep.
They've come back strong these last couple weeks. You're right. The Eagles looked like a good dominating team yesterday. Saquon Barkley has a little looks like a little groin thing to work through, but so he's going to do that. And then, did you see the injury from Cam Scatterboo yesterday, Andy?
Yeah, ankles flying around. That's pretty scary.
That was the ugliest looking
Yeah.
ankle thing I've seen in some time. It almost looked like it was completely detached from his. I mean, it should not have been pointing the direction it was pointing, and it was very gross.
Yeah,
So,
it was very good. It's like those are traumatizing events, and I'll never forget, showing how old we are, Dave. Back when Joe Theismann got his leg snapped by Lawrence
Monday Night
Taylor on
Football,
the field.
yeah.
Oh my God! So yeah, Cam's injury is pretty gross. Ankles aren't meant to go in that many directions, I don't think. So, you know, he was a really fun football player to watch on the field this.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he can recover and get back out there. I know the Giants fans and his quarterback Jackson Dart are just really hoping he can recover and get back on the field at some point. Probably lost for the season, I imagine, but yeah, hopefully he'll heal up and be back. Soon. He's a fun player, a surprise coming out of ASU. But Dave, let me ask you this. I got a message yesterday from friend and listener Chris, and he was really railing on the officiating. Right, he's looking at that Eagles Giants game in particular. There are a lot of wild calls, challenges, and bad calls and missed calls. And as a Lions fan, like every game, I hear and see Lions fans losing their minds over officiating. What is your thought on the state of officiating? Are refs really determining who's winning these games? Is it out of control? Are they really horrible? Or are we just having zero tolerance for these guys, and what they're doing on the field?
Well, as my dog has come into the view here, I don't know. I like there was a couple plays I saw in the Giants game. There was like a tush push where looked like Jalen Hurts had the ball stripped away from him prior to the whistle being blown, but the refs said that the whistle was blown. I thought that was a little questionable. I don't know why they couldn't have reviewed that a little bit more. But that was one piece. I'm not. I can't say that it's any more worse than it was, a couple years ago. Like I think it is really tough on these roughing the passer penalties. I think it's a little tough on the pass interference penalties. I did see a couple like a pass interference that was called where it looked like there was good contact between both the receiver and the defensive back,
Yeah,
and they called pass interference on the defensive back. I I think those are two ticky-tacky plays. I think the receiver shouldn't have unimpeded access to the ball.
yeah,
Like he should have to challenge for it. And if that means like he can't be held, that's the one thing you can't do. But like arm contact in between, I don't know. Like I'm okay with some of that. So
yeah,
I don't like those, but I think that's been happening now for a couple years. And so I
yeah.
think that's been happening for a couple years. So
Yeah, it's tricky, and I think we as fans, sitting in our living rooms, watching on TV, watching the third replay, we can be really critical. I think those guys and gals out there trying to make calls in real time with limited perspective, with everything going on in a football field, like it is an incredibly hard job. I couldn't do it. I'd screw that up horribly because just to track everything happening live is very demanding, and to see every potential infraction and make the right call every time is right. Also, there are a lot of bad calls, like for sure, and there were some. This weekend there've been I've seen a lot in the Lions games. I don't know if they're really determining outcomes very often. Like
yeah.
they might affect the play, they might affect the score, but in most cases, the team that's supposed to win that game wins that game. And so, fans need to think sometimes like, chill out a little bit, take a breather. If your team sucks, your team sucks. That's the way it goes. Sometimes things break your way, sometimes they don't. But it is fun to see like how quickly people spike up. And I will say, like that Eagles Giants game, there were a series of not great calls, which is,
Yeah.
unfortunately part of the game. But it was a good weekend of football, Dave. I'm excited to review the top five, once again here midweek because there's a lot happening. And these surging Indianapolis Colts, like they are really putting on a show right now in what they're doing on the football field. I mean, consistently week in and week out, like controlling the game.
So that'd be my question here is do you feel like there's a clearly a dominant team? I think there's a lot of really good teams, but do you feel like somebody you could like I get Indianapolis has been really good,
Yeah,
but like would you say that you'd be willing to bet them against anybody?
yeah, yeah.
See, that's I just don't know if we have that team yet.
Yeah, and
So
I don't know that we will this season. I think there's tiers. I think there's, and I think it's going to be fun because come playoff time, I think we're going to see some really good battles among some really good teams. And there are going to be some that we find out weren't what we thought they were. But we're going to see some really good football this offseason. I think we're going up to. So I'm excited about it. I think we're in store for a great second half of the NFL season. I think we're going to see a great playoff series coming in January and February.
it should be fun. Should definitely be fun. All right, Andy, a lot to go through on a Monday, so looking forward to that. It is a nice fall week here. We're finally temperatures in the 60s, I think, for here on out. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
get some dips in the 70s here and there, but I'm excited. We got Halloween coming up, so I hope you got all your candy ready to be doling out here, Andy, and you're not one of these Scrooges where you turn off your light after the first five
No, we're
minutes.
loaded. We're ready to go, Dave. We're loaded and ready to go.
All right. All right. Well, with that, Andy, I will catch up with you on Wednesday.